Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So for today's video I am going to be talking about two books that I gave 2 stars. The reason why I want to talk about them is because I gave them 2 stars for like 2 completely different reasons. So I just thought it's kind of interesting to see how you rate books based on perhaps your expectations of them, or just like the actual reading experience and the actual content. Because I have read both of these books and I want to talk about them a bit in depth, if you haven't read any of these books and you are planning on reading this book, I would not say that this video is for you because it might contain spoilers. But other than that, let's jump into talking about the books. And the first one, well, I'll tell you what the books are. So the first one is What I Hid From You from Helen Keast, and the second one is The New Me by Hallie Butler. I read What I Hid From You first. I'm going to talk about that one first. So the reason I ended up picking What I Hid From You is because in the community group that I'm part of, the author, said that her book was out now. I thought, oh, that book looks like, I thought the cover looked really nice. It's a thriller, let me check it out. So I read the back and I was like, you know what, that doesn't seem too bad. I really want to read this and see like what parts of the area she includes. So this was a super quick read. I think I read it in like the space of 2 days or something like that. I never find that thrillers that challenging to read. You're very much meant to turn the pages very quickly. I would say straight off the bat, this didn't really feel like a thriller to me. The first perhaps like 25% felt like a thriller, and then the rest I was like, this is just a normal story. Like this is just a person's like normal day. So the book is about a woman named Radha. She is a patient, not a patient, she is a dentist, and a couple of months ago a patient died in her chair, and since then she's been having really terrible panic attacks. The patient dying in her chair wasn't her fault at all. It was an old lady who had a seizure, and like she was cleared of it from the dentist medical council. I think in my vlog I said it was the general medical council. It's not the general medical council, it's the dental body. But she was completely cleared. But the thing is, because she's been having these terrible panic attacks, just like revisiting the night in her head, not that well, part of it I guess was because she thought maybe she'd be found guilty as well. She has been self-medicating with diazepam, and I didn't even know that dentists could like prescribe diazepam, obviously for patients to go and get, or like, you know, recommend for patients to go pick up a prescription. So she's been doing that, except it's been flagged up on her account, so then she starts doing it on her husband, and then it gets flagged up on her husband. So, you know, she's dealing with the fact that, oh crap, her dentist could come under scrutiny just so soon after the whole thing happened with that lady and she has been cleared. So she decides actually she's going to look online and get like diazepam from one of those websites that do diazepam. So anyway, she places the order, and it's in a pharmacy. It's just so funny because I've been to that pharmacy. I can literally see the pharmacy in my head. And it's in a bright orange box, and as she's coming out of the pharmacy and, you know, she's taking the packaging out, these 2 guys stop her and they're basically like, oh, we thought it was you. And she's like, what the hell is going on? And they're basically like, oh yeah, we saw your name and then we remembered that name. So this book is told from the perspective of her dad in first person, and then also told in the third person narration about Radha, narrating her moods. So every alternate chapter essentially is from those 2 perspectives. And so that happens to Radha, and she's not sure what the hell they're talking about, but they basically know she's a dentist, know she shouldn't be ordering diazepam. So they basically are like, we're going to use your place as a package drop-off. You know, someone's going to drop off a package and another person will pick it up. Like, and if you don't say yes, we're basically going to like report you to the council or whatever. So she's like freaking out. She's like, okay. So that is what starts off this whole thing. And meanwhile, we're getting the chapters from her dad. Initially, the chapters from her dad are just like her dad sort of talking about the fact that he lost his wife and how he's alone now, and he has diabetes and all these sorts of things. Eventually, later in the story, we find out that the dad, when her mum was still alive, like his wife, sorry, was still alive, and they were in the car, the dad hit a man completely by accident. I don't know I said completely by accident, but I guess I had to just clarify that. And from what I can understand of the situation, I'm pretty sure it was a set up situation to get money out of him. But because he pays the money, he then feels like he can't say anything about it, which I get it. So at the scene, when he hits this man, like there's a couple of people and they're basically like, well, you owe us money and all this sort of stuff. Sorry, one thing I actually forgot to mention is the dental practice that Radha runs, which she runs it with her husband, has been passed down to her from her dad. So her dad used to be a dentist. So these thugs find out, you know, the dad owns that dental practice, and I think they try to extort him for more money basically, and because he says no and he refuses, they start like targeting the dental practice, so like it gets attacked and all these sorts of things, and he starts putting CCTV there, and the whole family's like never really sure why, apart from the wife of course, but she doesn't know about the further extortion. So we find that out, and The stories are essentially linked by that because it's the same sort of family that's behind the people that were targeting the dad that are now targeting the daughter. And that was how they saw the link when they saw her name when she bought that. That's how they realised who she was and were like, great, we can target this family again. Meanwhile, in this story, we're also including the fact that, you know, she has a husband and she has a teenage son who is so moody, and there's something to do with drugs around the school, around the teenage son. It's like so many different stories linked in, and I was like, which one are we going to focus on? We focused on basically none of them. The story basically progresses with this tug and pull of all these different storylines, and of course in the back of it is this gang. Really, it's like a couple of guys she meets, and like I think one time when they actually try and do the box drop off, her dad like sort of blocks it, but they don't really know how because she's not in the room at that time and no one else saw. All this palaver. The sort of high point of this story is when a girl comes into the dentist chair and she comes with her nan. Her nan, like, I don't know, starts to feel ill, and the dental nurse takes her out and she treats this woman, this girl, and it's all fine. But then later she gets a video, which is essentially a blackmail video from the like thugs, and it's basically that same girl. She later finds out that girl goes to her son's school, that girl is an actor, and she later finds out subsequently later that that clip is like an acting part. But the reason why it's so convincing is because in it she's talking about the fact that a dentist sexually assaulted her. She doesn't name the dentist or anything like that, but obviously they send it to her, and at the end of the video they put a message like, that dentist is Raja, and they just say like, this is going to go out on YouTube. So now she feels more inclined to like stick with them. And it's just like a whole whirlwind. She's going out to dinner with her friends, she's having problems with her husband, her son is like so removed from her, like I said before, and also all of that drug stuff. Essentially what happens in the end is she ends up treating this like superstar, right, in the dental clinic, because one day she's there by accident, and they're looking for her husband because her husband usually treats like more the private clients and also like celebs apparently. She does his teeth for him because they call and like she does whatever it is, it's like an abscess or something, and then he says like, thank you so much, like if you ever need a favour let me know. So she basically cashes in on that favour, and what she decides to do, because her son is an actor and this girl is also an actor, and there's this huge part that's coming up, a huge play, and he's doing the casting for it, she essentially gets the girl in the play so that she can then go back to the girl's dad, because, sorry, I missed this part, the girl's dad is the ringleader. And I was just like, oh, okay. So that she can go back to him and be like, look, I got your daughter, if I get her this part, like, will you just stop this? And I was just like, okay, whatever. So that was just all like, okay, whatever. Like, this is not thrilling at all. This is actually really boring. I was expecting more commotion, more like, you know, more threats and more, you know, the doors closing around her, really. Like, a lot of the time, and she was like, the doors are closing around me. I was like, I feel like they're not, because right now, like, I don't really feel like there's much this gang can do to you. So essentially the sort of final scenes are that there is this like huge hotel, it's called the Blythewood Hotel, I've never even seen it in Glasgow, and the actor is basically going to announce who the two actors that he's picking are. So he picks her son, like she didn't know he was going to pick her son, so that's great, and he also picks the guy's daughter. And then there's this huge commotion, and now Radha's granddad has come along to sort of see the announcement. And you know, I haven't really talked more about his story parts and things like that, but it's really not that interesting. And he disappears for a while in the crowd, and then they find him after the commotion, and then they go home, and then the next day they find out that that guy ringleader has been killed, and obviously you just fucking know like your dad killed him, because it's like the dad is talking about their history. And essentially the police come around because they're asking questions of all the people that they could see on CCTV were there. And Radha like speaks to her dad, and then like notices a few sort of discrepancies like in his house, and then realises that her dad is a killer. Talks to her dad, and her dad's basically like, yes, I did it to protect you. And then the book ends, and I was just like, what? So in-depth plot summary there for you. This book, like, for me, it started off being like 3 stars. I think I've said this before, for me, generally thrillers don't tend to get more than 3 stars. Like, there's always something lacking in them that I'm just like, but no, but no. But for me, there was just so many parts of this book that I felt like the author wanted to discuss. But if you're doing that alongside it being a thriller, like, I just feel like you can't do it all, and it just seemed like it was trying to do it all, and it really let itself down on the thrill element. At no point did I really feel ever like Radha's life was in danger. Just never really got that sense of urgency and the sense that she was in real danger, and therefore I was like, I just feel like I'm reading about this mum who has all these problems and now has like, you know, started self-medicating with diazepam and has got herself like in a real huge pickle, won't deny that. I can understand why she was scared. I was never once like, why is she making these decisions? I think her decision process was quite rational for someone in that situation. And there was a lot of talk about her worry of like telling her husband and what they would do to her family and things like that. And you know, it came up a couple of times, which I think is quite normal if you're doing something like that. But I just never felt scared. I never felt the sense of urgency. I never felt like that gang were really going to do something bad, even when they sent like that threatening video, because it just seemed like they're sending that video just so they can get her to keep on doing it. They have no intentions really of like outing her. And then because it was so much taken up with like all the other things happening, and the son getting a girlfriend, and like one of the son's friends dies, and talking about the mums in the school and how they talk about their daughters, because it was also encapsulating that, I was just like, none of that is like really relevant and that interesting. But I think she wanted to talk a lot about the area and the huge houses in the area and the sort of attitudes of the mums in the area, so I can understand that. But then I think if you're going to do that, don't make it a thriller, just make it a general like literary fiction book and then just leave it at that. So I think that's what I felt was really the letdown piece. I was just reading it and I was just like, oh, this is just about mums in the area. Okay, yeah, she does have this whole gang life on her, but I really don't think she was that involved and it was that deep. And when the whole thing happened at the end, I was just like, I feel like this is silly. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I read it and I was like, don't believe it. This isn't great for me. And I also do feel, because I was reading it on my Kindle, it just felt to me like the ending was so abrupt. Like, I don't know if it was because my Kindle was telling me it was like 85%, so I thought I still had a little bit more. But even just that final chapter, when I think about how she was sort of coming to the realization that it was her dad, she's in her dad's house after the police have just left, and she comes to that realization, and then like the next page she's there like talking to her dad and essentially forgiving him because she's like, oh, he did it to protect us. And I'm just like, I just don't think that switch would happen that quickly. We're talking murder here. Like, you know, I'm like, even if you're the biggest ride or die, there's still going to be like in your head for those like 30 minutes surrounding it, like, what the fuck? So I was a bit like, yeah, no, this is not good for me. Like, I kind of wish I just never read this. Like, I'm glad I read it because I found the observations about the area very interesting, but overall, yeah, not one I would recommend, sadly. So if I move to talk about The New Me by Halle Butler, this was a book that I just wanted something light. I really was like, I really want a light read. I don't want anything too emotional, nothing too deep. And there is a Goodreads like reading list that Michelle told me about. She has a channel here, I'll link it down below. She hasn't uploaded in a while, but I'll link it down below, and it's called like Women Against the Void or something, and this book is on that list. And it very much, and there's so many books that I've read that are on that list, and it very much is a bit like My Year of Rest and Relaxation, where in the sense it's a very bored, I think she's 30, white woman in America who's just like, well, woe is me, life is so tough, boo hoo hoo, look at all these observations I have about people, I hate people, my life is so hard. But I think the real difference in this one is my expectations of it. It matched my expectations. Right on the back of the book, it talks about the fact that this woman is 30 and she's been temping for ages, and she's hoping that this next job that she's temping at will be the job that she gets a permanent contract at, and then she can finally, you know, get a regular gym membership and do all the things that come with having like a regular income, I suppose. And she is a temp at this interior sort of design firm, I want to say, something like that, and she's a receptionist there. And basically it sounds like she's doing really shoddy work, barely answers the phones because it barely rings. So spends most of her time just like sitting around. Apparently she dresses really badly and smells a lot of the time, so then the co-workers, sometimes it's told from the perspective that some of the co-workers are a bit like, oh, like, you know, she came in today like sort of smelling, or she came in today just looking like shit. So that's essentially what it is. A lot of it is told from her perspective. She's at home. It talks about the fact that she has like basically 2 friends, doesn't really like them. Talks a lot about her ex and how she essentially hated her ex. And yeah, how she's never really enjoyed like the job she's had in the past, but she's really hoping that once she gets the new job, it will change her life, and then she can do all the things she's always wanted to do, and she'll be the person that she wants to be. And it was just very subtly amusing. It wasn't so pitying in the same way of My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I think this one was pitched at a really good level. It didn't have too much of the I was going to say grotesque, but I'm thinking of Eileen by Tessa Moshfegh, not My Year of Rest and Relaxation by her, which are both by her obviously. But it didn't have so much of that dark humour that My Year of Rest and Relaxation had. It was just more this girl really fucking hates a lot of people, is trying to improve her life. One of the other storylines in there is from the perspective of that office manager, Lisa, and just sort of her communications or her thought process behind trying to get rid of Millie, our protagonist. And it's just sort of her saying how she can maybe recoup the money, and also like her writing to the agency and things like that, so that's quite funny. The other bit that happens, or the other only really thing that happens in the book apart from the day-to-day activities of Millie, is when Millie basically loses that job and ends up going home to her family, so her mum and dad. And her parents, you know, kind of like, they support her lifestyle in the sense that they pay for her house, her flat, and they give her food now that, not give her food, they give her money for food now that she doesn't have a job. So I think she has a phone call with her mum, and her mum's just like, basically, do you want to come home? And you know, she has a date with her mum, she has a date with her dad, where they do different things. They take care of her. Her mum takes her out for food, for shopping and things like that. And basically they take care of her, but then they send her on her way home, like basically sort your life out. But saying it in really subtle ways. You know those parents that never really tell their children anything, when really that's all they need to be doing. So that happened, and then she comes back and then has like a couple of days of just going back and forth and trying to like basically get a job, because she reaches out to that agency and they're like, based on this feedback, like we don't actually want you back, you need to go away and do something and then try contacting us again. And then the book kind of just ends there, and then the sort of final chapter is the fact that she has like a full-time stable job. She's now a junior office manager, so reporting to an office manager, and there is a temp there who essentially is a bit like, yeah, I don't want to end up like Millie, like she's a bit of a loser here with her like serious job and like, you know, serious stable job and things like that. So it's just funny how like kind of, not how the roles have reversed, but also funny how like she used to sort of snark on people and now she's being snarked on. But do you know what? The reason why I was like, this is 2 stars, is I was expecting the book to be like this, you know? I was expecting the book to be like, you know, have all this snark about people and jobs and the economy and things like that, but from the perspective of a very privileged white girl who you're just like, well, it doesn't seem to make any difference from you. Like, I think maybe if you just put some bit more grit into it, like, you might be fine. But, you know, the rest of us kind of have to, because we don't have parents that are going to support us if we don't do that. So us, you know, feel bad for you. It kind of sucks, like life's like that for a lot of us. So yeah, for me it was just at the right level. Like, I thought it was an okay book. I didn't think it was a great book. And if I think about it, definitely in comparison to My Year of Rest and Relaxation, it's definitely more on the tamer side of that sort of book. Like, you could effectively put those books together and be like, read this first and then read this after, as in read The New Me first and read My Year of Relaxation after. And they're just so similar in so many ways. Like, it is actually quite comical in that sense, because then it's comical how many people are walking around thinking this. And, you know, she talks a lot about friendships and like having friendship groups and having to like fit in and all of these things. So a lot of the observations are very amusing. But yeah, so for me it was 2 stars, because I was like, this is fine, this is the level that I thought it was going to be coming in at. Whereas from what I heard from you, I thought it was going to be a 3-star read. It was something that, you know, I had a bit more expectation for, and then it just let me down in terms of what I actually expected. But in both cases, yeah, 2 stars. They were okay books. The New Me is one that I would probably recommend to people if they like The Year of Rest and Relaxation. But in general, would I recommend it to people? No, because I don't really think that much happens in the book for it to be like worthwhile reading. It's, again, a book that's really easy to get through. I think another one that I got through in 2 days. So that is my video of 2 books that I read that I gave 2 stars. I appreciate I probably talked more about the plot than my actual thoughts about them, but I feel like I weave my thoughts in along with the plot. But I just really wanted to talk about the books, because I thought, yeah, some bits I read and just think, why is this happening? Why is this actually occurring? But yeah, so I have finished with my light reading, and I'm going to go back to my book stack that I'm trying to whittle down, but I'm really excited for towards the end of, maybe the end of July, beginning of August, where I'm going to buy a couple more books that are sort of more towards what I want to read at the moment, because they're sort of new releases that I've seen out in the past 1.5 years or so. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you in another one. Bye.